Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. And if you're new here, my name is Ev, and on this channel I like to talk about all things knitting. And I am running a slight little cold, so I feel it in my nose, so I'm a little bit nasally. Hopefully it's not too bad or annoying, but let's just hop right into it. Knits and Babbles is a podcast type episode where I talk about everything that I knit the previous month. So this month, this episode is going to be about everything I did in January, which sadly is barely anything. I did cast on a few new projects, but majority of my time did go towards spinning. I recently purchased, got for my birthday, an Ashford E3 spinning wheel, which is an electric spinning wheel. If you guys are interested in spinning, I highly recommend you go check out my last week and the week before's video. Part 1 is just unboxing the machine, first impressions, spinning 2 single ply bobbins, and then part 2 is plying those 2 singles together and then knitting up a beautiful pattern with my very first handspun knit. Handspun yarn. Now the difficulty is just getting in the lingo. I kept repeating while I was filming. I kept saying knitting, but I meant spinning. And now when I mean knitting, I say spinning. And my mind is just a little bit woo. But because I got a spinning wheel and I kind of focused all my attention on that new exciting hobby, I don't really have any finished whips for you or finished. I just have a bunch of whips. I have 4 whips going on right now, actually, which isn't that much, but that's kind of where I wanted to go this year. Reduce how much I knit at the same time and just pay attention to what I'm really knitting. So for this month's Knits and Babbles, I decided to do something a little bit different. And if you've been watching my videos for the last couple of months, you'll know that I've been working on my very first sweater design. So this is where I am at. Yes, the sweater is technically finished, but if you do follow me on Instagram, and if you don't, I highly recommend you do, I am ripping back and gonna be restarting it. I'm not restarting it fully, but basically I'm just gonna be ripping back to the armholes and redoing the whole body because I like the sweater a lot. I love the collar. I love the sleeve and the detail of the rib working along the sleeve to the cuff and the really long, thick cuff. This sleeve is washed and blocked, and this one isn't. But yeah, so I like the sweater. And on a hanger like this, it looks really good. It looks stunning. However, when I put it on, I'm not in love with it. This is the second time I knit up the body. The first time I knit the stockinette all the way up to here and then did about a 6-inch rib hemmed. It kind of gave me like mom at a ski resort vibes, which is not the vibe I'm really striving for. And what I kind of did was I ripped back to the armhole, and then I did this, which now I think what ended up happening is I overcompensated, and I think I started the rib way too high. So what ended up happening is this is more or less of a crop top now, but because I started the rib portion so high, it basically starts where your bra would end, which is a little bit weird. And because it starts so high, 6 inches from there isn't really long. So I kept adding more and more rib. And now I think that this is just too long and I think it starts too high. So for today's Knits and Babbles, while I'm showing you guys the other 3 whips I have going on, I'm going to be also ripping back here and I'm going to be restarting this portion. So because I did a tubular bind off at the bottom, I'm just going to cut that off and unravel from there. I kind of prefer to do that than to go with a needle and go back. I do have more yarn left over. Like I don't like to waste that yarn at the bottom, but I just don't have the patience to go with the needle reverse every stitch I did. Thankfully, I have more yarn left over from this. I think I have another skein of mohair and another skein of the purple. So I have more than enough if something goes wrong. Also, I just wanted to show you guys, I painted my nails last night and I thought that these would be really cute and colorful. I kind of put some little stickers on a few fingers, but I messed up the thumb and I kind of put them at the same spot. The pink one should have been on this side, but whatever. I'm no pro. Okay. Now, down to business. It's all going to be unraveled anyways. So let's just cut around. Yarn abuse. I love Italian bind off. I love tubular bind off. It looks stunning. It looks pretty. However, this is the portion I don't like. I see people on Instagram who actually do go and unravel it, and I just think that's insane. The patience you guys have. I just don't have that patience unless I don't have the extra yarn. The time and the frustration it would take to go back in between each like stitch you created is just insane because it doesn't unravel just like regular bind off. So it's not too much yarn, but it's just little really tiny short ends. It looks like a lot, but I can honestly like squish it in the palm of my hand, so it's not too much yarn. One of the things that kind of inspired me to do this today and just kind of sit back, relax with you guys and work on one of my knits in my Knits and Babbles is actually something that I keep seeing over on Instagram. People keep posting about Finish It February. Now, I don't know if this is something that happens every year or if it's kind of like Socktober in October where everybody knits socks, but I thought it was a really cool idea to basically spend the month of February where you're finishing knits, finishing projects that you have going on and focusing on those instead of casting on new things. Because January for me, I basically casted on 3 new projects and spun some yarn. So January for me was a very big month, but basically because of all that, I didn't finish anything. But I thought it would be a great idea to just sit back and kind of just work on one of the projects. So the first one that I want to talk to you guys about is actually a pattern that I've spoken about in my knitting goals for 2024, just because I said I wanted to do more color work, and this is the first cast on of the year so far. And it is a pattern by Andrea Mowry. Mine does look different than hers, but that's just because of the yarn I decided to go with. I decided to use 3 fingering weights, and she calls for 2 oh my god. Fiber. She calls for 2 fingering weights and a mohair. Not only that, but the mohair is more closer to one of the colors that she has in fingering weight. But I really wanted this color scheme. I really wanted this vibe of white, brown, and a type of teal green, foresty green. I've also learned from that video where I talked about this cowl that this is actually called mosaic knitting. I didn't know that, and turns out right now I'm knitting 2 projects with mosaic knitting. That's just when you work up a color work by knitting, like let's say you're knitting with the teal, you're going to knit with the teal, like 1 round with the teal, but where you don't want that color, you'll slip the stitches. And then you'll pick up the white, knit with the white, but where you don't want the white, you'll slip the stitches. So it's a color work that is worked with 1 color at a time, which I find really, really cool. It creates this really thick and squishy fabric, and on the inside, it looks insane. So this is the outside, and this is the inside. It's like crazy. It's just as crazy on the inside as it is on the outside. But so far, this has been a lot of fun, and it is the first project that I'm ever knitting with double pointed needles, DPNs. The pattern doesn't call for DPNs, but I figured since it's a giant circle, and because this is thicker yarn, it calls for thicker needles than a sock. I thought that that would be a great way to test out DPNs for the very first time. So it's my first pattern by Andrea Mowry, and the reason mine looks so different than hers is because of the fact that I used 3 fingering and 2 aren't close. They're all very different colors. White, they're very different colors, and hers, because it's a matching closer mohair, it kind of creates a little box around, which looks more like gingham. Just because of the way you knit it up, it takes a lot of time and a lot of yarn. And I think I am more than halfway done. So it's basically you knit one long tube and then you'll just connect it at the end, and then you'll have a cowl that you can wear on your neck. The next pattern I want to talk to you guys about is another scarf, and it's from the lovely 250 Weeks of Scarves or shawls, depending on the print for some reason. And it is this guy. And it is the Drops of Memory scarf. And I've casted, this is the second time I've casted this one on. It's a lot bigger than this. It's just my cable. This is my longest cable, and it's not big enough to hold entirety of the scarf. So it's a little scrunched up. But this is what I have so far. This is all I knit up for it in the month of January since I recasted it on. And I actually counted a couple weeks ago how long it takes me to do one row. And it takes 15 to 20 minutes, depending on how focused I am while knitting. So this, surprisingly and funny enough, is the second scarf I'm knitting this year. And it is also done in mosaic knitting. Oh my God, my nose. So the back is this funky texture, and then the front, you fully see the beautiful diagram. The yarn I'm using is a fingering weight. It calls for fingering, so I'm using the white. This is just Maiwa, just a white fingering wool. And then I'm holding it with, this one's, I think it's a sport weight, so it's a thicker yarn. But I'm holding this with this Yarn Art or Yarn Art orange. It's wool and rayon silk, and it's a thicker weight. But I don't mind it too much because you can still clearly see the white. I think that the orange just ends up being a little bit more of an orangey scarf, which is totally fine. I have so many skeins of these, it's kind of crazy. This was actually gifted by my boyfriend's mom, and it's a Turkish yarn, so she brought it to me from Turkey, like I think 2 years now. So it's been in my stash for quite some time. Last year's version, I just did the band at the bottom, and then I ended up lending the book to a friend, and by the time I got the book back, I had taken pictures of the pattern, but by the time I got the book back, for some weird reason, I just kind of stopped knitting it, and then summer came, and clearly that wasn't the time to start knitting up a scarf. So I kind of just stopped working on it. And I was looking at this book again when last fall I knit the Autumn Vibe shawl. Like, you know what? I was searching for a pattern to knit up, and I remembered I have this beautiful scarf that I'm knitting up, and it never went anywhere. So I just decided this year to recast it on, and we'll hopefully be doing a monthly update on it because I do have a feeling like it's going to take me a really long time, maybe the full year, to knit it all up. Who knows? Because it just takes forever. It's like 500 stitches wide, and then it takes me 20 minutes to do one row. It's kind of funny that 2 of the 4 knits right here are scarves. And if you watched my spinning video, I also knit a scarf with my hand spun knit. But I'm not talking about that one this year because that one was technically knit in February. So we will take a look at it after a couple of wears and basically next month. I'm just going to stand up for this one, but the last knit that I want to talk to you guys about is another pattern of mine, and it is this lovely little cardigan that I'm knitting up with Koigu yarn, and I just love it. It's this kind of gray but like rainbow vibe, rainbow blotches, and sometimes as I was knitting it up, I wasn't sure about the color, but now when I wear it and I have it on, I absolutely love it. It is missing the collar and the button band, which is why it's like so wide and having a hard time staying on the hanger. Also, one sleeve is washed and blocked, this one, and then this one isn't, which is why it's so short. And one thing that I do want to do before adding the button band and the collar, it's just wash it and block it. The sleeve, since I washed it, it grew about 2 inches. So I'm expecting the body to gain another 2 inches in length. Right now, it kind of arrives sort of like this one, but like here. Just a pattern that I'm writing on my own, and it's kind of funny. I'm struggling so much with this purple one, but in the meantime, on the side, this one is just working up really, really well. I really want to add some pockets to it, and I'm not too sure exactly on the collar. I think I want like a thick I have a little bit left over from my last skein that I was using, and then I have another full skein of yarn. So I guess I'll see how long that lasts me. But I did want to wash and block it just to make sure that the fit is what I want before finalizing it and adding the collar and the button band. Because the button band kind of depends on how long the cardigan is. But if turns out I want it to be longer, that means I would need to rip off the button band as well. Rework all that. Yeah, so that one doesn't have a name yet. That one, funny enough, I am filming the whole progress of this one and working that into be a video. But because this sweater is having so many redos and unravels and recast ons, this video is going to be a beast mess to edit. And the gray one, I casted it on during Christmas, so I wasn't filming it. Now I'm like, damn, that one's going by so much more smooth. Like, it would be so much easier to have made a video with that one, but I guess this is the designing process. This is what happens. I have also said that I am currently spinning, and if you can see behind me, you can kind of see what I'm spinning. So this is some new yarn that I am spinning right now. It is from Lily and Pine, and this is just one of the singles that I will be spinning together. And I absolutely love this color. I'm pretty impressed with my second spin. I tried to keep my thickness about 28 wraps per inch for my single, so that when I apply them together, I think that's gonna create a TK because I'm gonna have this double. I'm almost done the second bobbin, but once I'm done it, I'm gonna let it rest for 2 days, I think. So basically I won't be able to ply it. I think I'm just gonna wait till next weekend to start plying because this one has been resting for a couple days now. I keep seeing online that you need to wait for your yarn to rest before plying. Otherwise they're gonna have different, like, you need to allow the yarn to like relax and rest before plying them together, because then you're gonna have one very tightly wound bobbin that you just finished and then one relaxed, and it's just not gonna work too well. But for this one, I'm really excited because I'm trying something new. I'm trying to do fractal spinning. And fractal spinning, it's the way you split up the braid before spinning it up. So that because this one has so many different color changes, what you do is you take your braid and you split it into 2 halves. So then this is the first half, just like split down the middle. This is the first half. So it has a very slow color change. And then the second half, for the second bobbin, what you do is you split that one into 4, and then you spin them back to back to back to back. So that one, because it's split into 4, into quarters, it's gonna have a much quicker color transition. So when you ply them together, you end up with one strand that'll have one color transition and another one that'll have a much quicker one. And it kind of gives you this, maybe I can find a picture, but it kind of gives you this like cool color change effect, which I wanted to try this because I find it really, really cool. But also, what is going on here? But it's also a way to allow me to just focus on the spinning because the color management gets dealt with before you actually spin. And it also helps with pre-drafting because instead of spinning directly from the thick braid, separating it into these sections kind of allows you to draft a little bit. And now that I'm working on my second spin, and I've recently realized that I love spinning and I'm obsessed, I have been wanting to sort of buy maybe a bat or buy a huge amount of roving, enough roving to spin up a sweater. So I asked you guys on Instagram if that would be a series you'd be interested in watching, where I just spin. I'm not too sure if I would knit a pattern already out there or if I would design a pattern, but basically just have a series where I spin a sweater quantity of yarn and then I knit it up. Take you guys along with me because I do feel like that would take a couple of months to get through. And the majority of you guys said yes, do it. A few of you said maybe you should practice a little bit more before jumping into a sweater. In Vancouver, we have Fiber West, which is it's kind of like Knit City. if you guys have been, but it's more, I think, fiber related. I'm not entirely sure. I haven't been yet. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to select my, okay, something's not right here. Yay. We're back on the needles. So what I think I'm going to do is in March, when that Fiber West event happens, and I'm going to bring you guys along with me, and I'm going to select the roving, the bat, and then I will start the spinning series, which basically gives me about a month to practice some spinning. Now this is my second braid in 2 weeks and 3 weeks. So in a month, maybe I can spin up one more, just get really good. And then, yeah, and then we can start that series up. I just had to change my battery because it died. But basically, we have it back on the needles. And doesn't this kind of look like one of those tops? I feel like these tops were kind of trendy, like not too long ago, like maybe 2 years ago, where it was just like a, yeah, no, wasn't that? Or are they still in? I don't know. But yeah, so now basically this week what I'm going to be focusing on is knitting this and hopefully getting it done. I really, really want to get this done for the month of February. I feel like I was saying something about the spinning, but I kind of forget now. And I've been filming for quite some time. So I now have my caked up yarn. Ooh, this is heavy. And if you guys are interested in the series where I spin up and knit up my very own sweater with my very own hand spun yarn, let me know in the comment section down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this weird knits and babbles, and next month hopefully we will have some finished projects that we can talk about and go back to the regular format. If you guys did enjoy these, maybe we could do more like this sometimes when I have lighter months where I don't really get too much done because of life. But with that being said, I wish you guys a happy weekend, happy February, happy Valentine's Day, and hope you guys have a lovely, beautiful day, and I'll see you guys all in the next one. Bye!